Hello YouTube, this is Natanis Likens, and today we are continuing my beginner's guide for Back for Blood. And today we are going to talk about weapons and gear. We are not going to go into great detail on what weapons are best, because that is just down to personal preference. Instead, we are going to talk about some of the things that may not be too obvious, especially considering the range doesn't really show you some of the options available. And alongside that, I did notice there's at least one weapon that is not present and three, I believe three other items that are not present as well. Without further ado, let's just talk about what I'm referring to as far as the weapons. So as you can see on my weapons there in the bottom right, both of these are white, and if we go through and look at all of these are all white as well. These are base weapons, so they have the base stats, accuracy, clips, and all that. They are just the basic forms of them. Now there are, with weapons, four, technically five quality levels. And you'll see up in the right corner there with the little star, it has a 5. That is the quality of the weapon. And that quality goes up based on whatever mods that you have equipped to that weapon. Now, the thing about that is they also come in higher qualities. So starting off, we have the white, which is the common, then you have green, which is uncommon, blue, which is rare, and then purple, which is epic. Now, up here, if we look at this real quick, you'll see that we have legendaries. We're going to put legendaries in their own separate category because the legendaries have changed since the game was first launched, and these legendaries up here are no longer the same. Their stats are the same, but we'll get into that in a minute. So yeah, there are four qualities of weapons, each one having slightly higher stats than the previous level. And you'll notice on the stats there we have firepower, which is how much damage it does, the range, how far a bullet or a shell will fly, well, shell being the pellets inside of a shotgun shell, the accuracy of it. Accuracy is my crosshair. You'll see right now, because I can't equip a card and or a deck and certain mods, that our crosshair is fairly large, and this is specifically for firing from the hip. As any FPS player will know, firing from the hip is less accurate than actually aiming down the sights. The big difference here is that if you have enough accuracy in your deck, your crosshair actually gets smaller and smaller and smaller until literally it's the same as aiming down the sights. So really, you can play this game without using the ability to aim down the sights if your deck is set up to have a high enough accuracy. For most weapons, that really is unimportant because it is going to be the same as aiming down the sights. However, the big difference here is with shotguns. So the closer the crosshair is for a shotgun, the smaller the spread of the pellets. So effectively, if you get your crosshair small enough with a shotgun, instead of firing off like pellets, it fires off like a slug, dealing more damage to a single target. And depending on the amount of penetration your weapon also has, uh, alongside any penetration card you have in your deck, the more damage it's going to do to multiple targets in a row. So yeah, that is what accuracy actually is for. It has nothing to do with your accuracy as far as aiming down the sights. That's just going to be on you, the player. Um, Same goes for the crosshair, but the real point is that there's not going to be as much spread of the bullets when you're firing from the hip, if that makes any sense. Like, the crosshair does get smaller and smaller based on the weapon itself, your deck, and any mods that you have on it. And for For all of the primary weapons, you can see in the bottom right with this AK-47, there are 4 slots. You have the barrel slot, and our options for the barrel slot is the laser sight, the long barrel, the suppressor, and the compensator. Each one of these has different unique things that they apply to, such as the laser sight increases your accuracy, the long barrel increases the effective range of the weapon. The suppressor actually allows your weapon to be a little bit more sneaky. If you are firing a weapon without a suppressor, there's a high chance that other ridden around will hear it and come rushing towards you. And the higher quality suppressor you have, the less likely that becomes, until you reach epic level where there's a 100% chance that no ridden will actually come towards you while firing with the suppressor. The compensator is probably one of my favorites. It increases your recoil and your move speed while firing. And this is specifically to the recoil as far as any weapon you know of in any first-person shooter. It is going to bounce a little bit as you are firing, as you can see here. So the higher quality of compensator you have, the less it bounces around while firing. And once you get the highest level, actually, there is no recoil at that point. You're just firing straight, and the gun isn't even moving at that point. Alongside the move speed while firing, and this is a little unknown thing. In most first-person shooters, when you are firing and moving, you're actually slowed down. With the right cards and mods set up in this, you actually have the same movement speed if you aren't firing and if you are firing. So that is one of those little nifty things that this game does, and all of this starts really showing that it's more RPG based and not just your standards Call of Duty zombies. Alongside that, as far as the quality of weapons, when you are starting off in any map, and let's go to the campaign, we're going to use recruit simply because that allows me to see all of the starting points. So if you start on the very first level of any act, you are typically going to only find common weapons everywhere, and those common weapons might have uncommon attachments, but that's typically what you're going to find. And as you work through the act itself, you're going to start finding more uncommon weapons, green, and then rare weapons, and then also towards the end, epic weapons. And that is the same throughout most of the acts. The only exception to this is Act 4. When you start Act 4, there's a whole bunch of weapons out on the ground, and Act 4 is one simple mission. You just got to kill the giant worm, the final boss of the game. I say final boss. Act 4 was originally the final level of the game until later DLC came in, adding more acts to it. It's still technically the final boss of the game because I do believe that this, yes, behold the Harbinger. This, again, you have to deal with the giant worm. That is, again, the final boss of the game. And I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, so you are going to find more and more higher quality weapons as you play through. Now, with that being said, your weapon can be a higher quality of one that is a higher rarity. So, for instance, if I went over, it's going to be kind of hard to show this. So, if I went over here and just grabbed every single mod possible for any given weapon, and I can't really show you this, but the quality level of this weapon is now actually higher than the same type. As you can see right there, this AK-47 that's on the table is a quality level 5. However, with all the mods that I have on my weapon, it is actually a quality level 11. So what I'm actually using right now is better than what is found on the ground. And this can also apply to a higher quality weapon if it does not have as many mods on it. So right now, let's say that the weapon I have is white. We have 3 green or uncommon attachments to it, along with 1 legendary because, you know, there's only legendaries up there. We can possibly find a green AK-47, an uncommon one, that actually has a lower quality based on our mods. And again, the mods come in uncommon, rare, and epic as well, each one giving you more and more stats based on which stat that particular mod applies to. Now, I will say that alongside the missing items out here, such as the hammer, the toolkit, the defibrillator, and the med kit, we are also missing a couple of clip mods. Now, most of these are legendary up here, so they already have some of the ones that I'm talking about that are missing. And that is, you can actually find a bullet mod that goes in your clip slot for increased penetration, so it'll go through more targets, increased damage, and then also increased stumble damage. The big difference between stumble damage and flat out damage is the damage is just flat out damage. The stumble damage, consider stumble like the ability to stun in the game. There are, actually think about, we're also missing the stun gun. The stun gun's not over here either. So the flash grenade, the stun gun, the legendary stun gun, and stumble damage all pretty much do the same thing. They stun the target for an amount of time based on the quality level of that item. The legendary one being a little bit different in terms of how long it lasts. There is a legendary flashbang and there is a legendary stun gun. The legendary stun gun you get 3 uses with, as opposed to 1 with just a plain stun gun, regardless of quality level. And the legendary flashbang does this multiple times, and anything that enters the area is going to be stunned. I will say be very, very careful of using the legendary flashbang. I've found too many times where I've been part of the recipient of somebody using that, and it's not fun. It's very disorienting and blinding. So if you're using the legendary flashbang, please pay attention to where your teammates are. It is very, very annoying when you get hit by that because you can't do anything for that few seconds. You are effectively a non-player. Um, and it does last a little bit too long on the player. Again, those are meant specifically for dealing with mutations, making them very easy targets. Uh, just please bear in mind where other players are. There is also a legendary Molotov cocktail, and that one is a little bit odd. So the Molotov, let's just go ahead and grab one of these and give you an example. And also we're going to show you how the thrown weapons work. So with thrown weapons, there are 2 options in the controls setup. First off is one that allows you to just toss it. All you got to do is hit the button, you're going to toss it. I'm not a big fan of that because I like to be able to figure out where I'm actually throwing it. So we hold down the button and you can see I get a little targeting area, and that's going to tell me exactly what area is affected. Now with the regular Molotov, I'm going to throw this down and you'll see that this does continuous fire damage to that target right there, and any other plane ridden or mutation that walks through there is also going to take fire damage. For the base form of ridden, this is going to be a one-shot kill. They walk into it, they die. They are going to have an animation where they flail around because they're on fire and everything, but they're effectively dead at that point. You don't have to worry about them. As far as mutations and some of the more powerful ridden, um, it really doesn't have much of an effect on them, except for dealing some damage over time to them. And by further mutated ridden, what I mean is there are 3 types. You have one that has the armor on it, meaning that you have to knock off the helmet in order to kill it. Then you have festering, which festering is pretty much the same kind of deal. Shooting it in the body is not going to do anything to it. You have to pump quite a few bullets into the body in order to kill those. It's better to just shoot them in the head. It takes about 2 shots, regardless of weapon type. I do believe with the shotgun it is 1, though. Uh, and then you have the fire ridden. Fire ridden, unfortunately, are not affected by the Molotov cocktail because they're already on fire. So if you're using that against fire ridden, you're stupid. I'm just going to put it blank like that. You are very stupid. The Molotov does not work on the fire ridden. Uh, and as far as mutations, they are going to catch on fire and they are going to take damage over time. However, they are going to walk straight through it. Now, this is where the legendary Molotov comes in, because as I said, that's an area of effect, and it only affects that one area, so any ridden that walks into it is going to catch on fire. The legendary one does exactly the same thing, but also on top of that, any other ridden that gets close to one that's already been set on fire will then get set on fire. So that is a big difference with the legendary. The legendary Molotov is one of those that I really don't use because that's not really effective. Typically, if you're using a Molotov, you're using it in a choke point. That way, anything that comes into that choke point is going to get caught on fire anyway. It's probably one of the few legendaries I'm just like, why would you even bother? Some of the other ones are a lot better, including the probably my favorite legendary is actually the med kit. Now, that is a good point while I'm thinking about it. So, the quality level of bandages and med kits does increase how much health it gets back for you. Now, I don't think there is quite a way for me to actually demonstrate this. We can try something. Let's see if I can catch myself on fire and take some damage. Yep, I'm taking some damage. And let's grab a bandage. So you can see that I have 77 health out of 100. We're going to use a single bandage, and that actually gave me full health. We need to take a little bit more damage so I can demonstrate this a little bit better. I'm just going to let it go. Okay, so 59. Let's see how much I get with a single bandage. Okay, so that healed us up to 84. So that was roughly about, what, 21 health? No, 25 health. Again, with the quality level, you are going to get higher amounts of health back based on, you know, what quality level of the bandage you use. Same goes for the med kit. Now, there is one big difference between the med kit and the bandage. The bandage is very quick, heals you for a little amount. The med kit is a little bit slower and heals you for a lot more health. The big difference here is that once you hit epic quality of bandages and medkits, the medkits will actually heal your trauma damage. And that is very important, something to keep in mind, especially when you're buying team upgrades. Unfortunately, I can't really demonstrate team upgrades right now without getting into the actual game, but just bear in mind that the quality level of all the items is very important, and the stats do matter. I cannot reiterate that enough because I've seen way too many comments about people complaining that the stats do not matter. The stats really do matter. The game is more akin to an RPG in that regard than it is Call of Duty or any other first person shooter. You do need to worry about the quality of the weapon and the stats, not to mention the stats that you have in your deck. Okay, so that's most of the weapons and the quality level of everything. There are a few other things that we need to talk about, and the quality level of all these really does matter and is slightly different based on certain things, such as how long something affects something, how much damage it does, and etc. The other thing we need to talk about is the minigun and the flamethrower, because I see people using the flamethrower completely wrong all the time. But first up, we're going to talk about the minigun. So the minigun, when you grab it, you cannot automatically use it. You actually have to place this thing. And so we're just going to place it right here. This is going to be a little bit harder to talk about, seeing as we are in the range. And if I get on this, you can see underneath the ammo amount, it says infinity. So this thing has infinity ammo while in the range. In the game itself, when you're on a map, they do not have infinite ammo. They have a set amount of ammo, and that set amount of ammo is also determined by the difficulty that you are on. I do believe on veteran, it has 700 shots. On nightmare, it only has 300. So yes, pay attention to that if you are planning on using the minigun for anything. I would say typically you need to save the minigun for bosses. Don't worry about using it on mutations or on regular ridden. It is absolutely pointless to use this for anything else other than a boss. The other thing I will say about this is you are completely and utterly out in the open while using this. You can only defend in a cone in front of yourself, so if anything comes behind you, it will start to hit you, or if it's a tall boy, it will knock you off of it. So bear that in mind. The minigun is a very powerful thing, but it also is a double-edged sword, as it leaves you completely vulnerable to attacks from sides and behind. And then again is also the ammo issue that we previously mentioned. Now, the flamethrower. The flamethrower. I see people using this thing wrong all the time. And before we start talking about the flamethrower, I just realized there's one thing we need to talk about. Once the minigun runs out of ammo, it is absolutely useless. You cannot get more ammo for this thing. And that's where we need to switch over to the flamethrower. Now, again, because it's got the infinite ammo sign there, it's hard to demonstrate this, and not to mention there are no gas cans around here. With the flamethrower, if you see the flamethrower in the safe room, that is the first indication, along with seeing the corruption card beforehand, that you are going to have to deal with razor worms. Razor worms are an annoying mechanic in the game, and this is basically some pink thorn-looking bushes throughout the map. You can crouch through them without taking any damage. However, this is going to slow your time down quite a bit as you are having to crouch through the entire map. That's where the flamethrower comes in. The flamethrower, when you hit the razor worms with it, will burn them and get rid of them. I see people using this all the time to deal with all the regular ridden and the mutations. While that is a possibility, that is absolutely a waste of the ammo of the flamethrower. And on all difficulties that I've played so far, the flamethrower always has 300 ammo for it. This is actually fuel, but we're just going to call it ammo for the sake of consistency. Now, the fuel cans. Typically, when you see a fuel can, people just think, oh, I can throw that out, shoot it, and it'll cause an explosion, which will damage ridden that come through it or are near the explosion. However, with the flamethrower, you can actually use the fuel canisters to reload the flamethrower. And it is one of the few things that once it runs out of ammo, you can actually continuously carry. So once you find another fuel can, you can actually fill this thing back up. It is 100 fuel per fuel can. So bear that in mind if you see this and you are using it. Do not use it to kill regular ridden or mutations. This thing is meant to clear out the razor worms in order for your team to progress through the level without taking damage. And the damage that you take is laceration damage. I do not remember off the top of my head if it is flat out damage or damage over time. What I can tell you is it stacks. And I believe that a bandage will take off 3 stacks of that, while a med kit will take off 4 stacks, or maybe 5. That is something that, I haven't really noticed too well, other than I did at one point use a bandage on myself to try and remove it, and I noticed that it did remove 3 stacks of laceration. Um, so please do not run through the razor worms. If somebody has a flamethrower, let them get rid of the razor worms first. Otherwise, you're just going to be taking way too much damage throughout the map. I see way too many people doing this and wasting the flamethrower for its intended purpose. Um, it is a viable weapon in the game. However, because of its fuel amount and the rarity of fuel canisters, once you actually see that it's on the map, um, please don't waste it. Now, as far as a few other things, we also have the bear trap. The bear trap is fairly new, and it's a one-time use item, meaning you set it, it works one time, and then it's gone. Um, And for the most part, what I've seen this thing do is it does not work on regular ridden. I've only ever seen mutations get caught in this, and this works fairly similar to any kind of stun mechanic as far as some of the other things, such as stumble damage, the flash grenade, the stun grenade, and the legendary stun grenade. Uh, However, I would consider this more of a root. So it is stuck in place, it cannot move. And that's basically how that works. And then it takes damage over time. There are bear traps throughout the stage that you yourself can walk into. So please look around, pay attention to those. I am guilty of hitting those myself because coming back to the game fairly recently, this is a new thing. I'm not used to looking for them, and I should actually start getting used to it. But yeah, that's that. And oh yeah, legendaries. Let's talk about legendaries. Legendaries are weird. So typically, in any RPG at all, and actually there is another type of mod that we need to talk about, legendaries typically come in some form of special color. In Back for Blood, you can see that it's kind of this orange yellow. However, that is not always the case. Legendaries in this game are name based, like they have a very specific name. And you can find those in rare quality. So it is going to have slightly lower stats than the legendary version, but it is effectively the same item, giving the exact same bonuses. And as far as the mods are concerned, there are a few legendary weapons, and the legendary weapons are interesting to say the least. Typically, they have one special thing that they do, and they only come with one attachment slot to which you cannot actually change out that attachment. Um, and it's kind of misleading too, because I do believe the Witness, and while I'm not sure if the Witness is a Phoenix or an M1A sniper rifle, it actually comes with a suppressor on it. So you don't have to worry about calling the Horde while trying to take them out from a distance. Um, but its primary purpose is to actually highlight other mutations, and there are a couple more. I do not know the actual ability of all of the legendaries. I do know a couple of them, and I do know a couple of the weapons that come in legendary forms. I don't know if there's more. I haven't seen any yet, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So first off, we have the Witness, that is a sniper rifle. There is also a legendary AK-47. I have no idea what its ability is. There is also, I believe, a legendary M16. I'm not exactly sure on that one. Then there is a legendary AA-12 called the Domination. I don't know what the ability is on that one either. And then there is also a legendary UMP-45. If I recall correctly, it was something about dealing damage. Again, I don't know off the top of my head exactly what it is. The only other legendary that I actually know what it does is the Desert Eagle. Um, and this one is one that is, again, a double-edged sword because the Desert Eagle is very, very slow and the reload speed is very, very slow. But the legendary one actually gives you copper based on the kills that you get with it. And it says a specific amount on there, but what I've found is that the amount that you get for killing ridden and mutations is completely and utterly random. And it can be from anywhere from 5 copper to 25. Now, I do believe on the information that it says that it is specifically 5 ridden per kill. However, I have gotten 1 kill and gotten 25 copper, so that may just be a bug in the coding of it. I'm not exactly sure on that. But yeah, all the legendaries, including the legendary attachments, also do come in a rare form. It is kind of odd that they have 2 forms of the legendaries, and as far as I know, it's only those few weapons that have legendary forms, and then pretty much all of the uh, accessories have uh, a legendary version, with the exception of the smoke grenade and the frag grenade. I have not seen either one of those in a legendary form yet. And the legendary med kit is actually one of my favorite legendaries. What the legendary med kit does is it completely heals all of your trauma, it completely heals your entire health, and then on top of that, it gives you 3 basic health cards. And if you remember when I was talking about decks, and specifically talking about the starter deck, this is what I'm talking about. It gives you 3 of these cards right here that simply gives you 5 extra health. So once you use that legendary med kit on yourself or on another player, it completely heals them. It gives them an extra 15 health. Absolutely love that thing. It's amazing. The legendary bandage, and we're out of bandage over here. The legendary bandage heals the entire team within an AoE area. That area is actually kind of large in terms of AoEs, like it's much larger than any of the thrown weapons. Just grab one of these to show you. Uh, yeah, I guess it is a little bit bigger than the frag grenade. Probably not by much. I was thinking that this was a little bit smaller, but yeah, it's quite a large area. So yeah, the legendary bandage heals everybody within that area of effect. It is a small amount that it heals for. The thing is, it heals the entire team. There's also a legendary painkiller. I have not actually used it or even read the description of it, so I don't really know what it does. And the painkillers basically just give you temporary health, and that's pretty much all they do. As you can see right there, my health is starting to fall. Yeah, and that's how temporary health works. The smoke grenade is another option as far as sneaking around certain mutations. It's not mutations or ridden. Um, it's not my favorite. I haven't really used it that many times because it's kind of a whoop-de-doo item, like why is this even in the game kind of item, because most people are not going to take a stealthy approach to this game. Most of the time they're going to take a guns blazing game because they think this is Call of Duty Zombies and they can just rush through everything. Uh, so the smoke grenade is one of those that I don't understand why it's even in here, because nobody's going to use this like they should. Most of the time, if somebody uses this, it's because they thought they picked up a frag grenade. To be perfectly honest, I know I've done it a couple of times, not paying attention to what I actually grabbed and realizing when I tried to kill something that I just threw a smoke grenade and I'm like, oh, whoops. Uh, any other items that we need to talk about? Oh, yeah, there is one thing I forgot to mention as far as the attachment slots on weapons. So the primary weapons, all of the primary weapons, come with 4 slots. The handguns, all but one of them comes with 3 slots, and actually, the Belgian actually only has 2 slots. So, uh, so we got two sidearms that actually have different amount of attachment slots. Again, the Belgian only has 2. The Desert Eagle actually has 4. So I can actually put on a compensator, I can put on some form of stock, I can put on a clip, and I can also put on some form of sight. And it is the only pistol in the game that comes with the ability to have any of the sights on it. Um, yeah, I don't know why they did that. I really feel like the Tech 9 should be able to have a sight on it as well. Yeah, I guess. Looking at how this thing actually functions, probably not. But yeah, the Desert Eagle is the only one that can have all 4 slots. Same for the weapons; they also have 3 slots on there. Unfortunately, they did not add a attachment board for melee weapons, so I can't really show you what all the melee attachments are. And through my own memory, what I can tell you is that on the far left there, if you look right below the actual weapon icon there that shows a machete, on the far left there, you have 2 options there. You have damage resistance and health still. In the middle slot, you have weapon speed and swap speed. On the far right, I believe there are 3 different types that you can have in that slot, one of which is damage, one of which is stumble damage, and then the other one is stamina efficiency that you can possibly have there. There may be more, I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head, again, because they did not put a attachment board here specifically for melee weapons. It's kind of hard to remember exactly which ones you can get. And all those can be used on all of the melee weapons, and they also apply to the bow. So the same exact attachments for melee weapons work with the bow. They do have different stats in some cases, not all of them, such as the health for kill is the exact same if it's a melee weapon or a bow. The stumble damage, the flat out damage is the exact same. The only real difference is some of the stamina items. Um, for the melee weapons, it's general giving you a little bit more stamina. For the bow, it's mostly stamina efficiency because the bow does eat up quite a bit of stamina when you are continuously firing. Um, I can actually demonstrate this a little bit. So as you can see, our stamina is draining while we are using the bow. So when you have that particular stamina efficiency, it's a little bit slower as far as how much stamina you are using with it. I do think this makes a lot of sense with the bow because it is a very physical weapon, much like the melee weapons. So it doesn't bother me too much. And in fact, the bow is something I've still been experimenting with and playing with. It is very fun to use and be successful with. I just wish there was a few more cards that worked with it. Being that there's so many cards that work with melee weapons, I really wish they would add a few more for the bow. And I do believe that that is pretty much all of the items. If I missed any items, if there was something you wanted to have me clarify a little bit more on, please leave a comment down below. And in the next one, I think we are going to talk about hordes and the various ways that hordes can actually be summoned. Some of those are kind of the same, but while also being different. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to get into the next episode. So until then, guys, take care, and I will see you later. Okay, we're having to do this again. I keep forgetting to mention certain things and then realizing after I've recorded that I forgot something. That is red attachments. We forgot to mention red attachments. Red attachments only come on firearms of any type and are usually a debuff. You need to get rid of those as soon as possible. Um, Depending on exactly which one it is better to get rid of that as soon as possible, especially if it's a clip or a uh, barrel attachment. The clips usually decrease your ammo count as far as how many shots you have in the clip, and the barrel attachment usually means that either the range is really low, it's more likely to summon ridden, or it's going to be horribly inaccurate when firing. So yes, definitely get rid of red attachments as soon as possible. And again, I apologize. I keep leaving things out and having to come back after I've already said goodbye and recording things. Hopefully, I'll get a little bit better at that with the rest of my beginner's guide. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you later. Please leave a comment down below.